You know how people say revenge is loud? That it's fire and shouting and drama? Yeah, no. Real justice, the kind that actually hits where it hurts, it's quiet. It doesn't scream. It waits. My name's Emily Carter, and when I was 19, I took a 2-week trip to Spain with my family for my uncle's wedding. 2 weeks that started like a postcard and ended up changing everything. Before we start, if you love stories about love, betrayal, family secrets, and getting the kind of closure you didn't even know you needed, stay with me until the end, because this one ends with a song. One I wrote, well, AI wrote, for the girl I used to be. And I promise, it's worth it. I'd just finished my first year of college back then. Awkward, shy, still figuring myself out. My Uncle Robert had fallen in love with a Spanish woman, so the wedding was being held in her hometown just outside Seville. The trip was supposed to be simple. Family vacation, sightseeing, a little sunshine. But life has a funny way of turning simple into a turning point you don't see coming. From the second we landed, Spain just felt different. The air smelled like citrus and salt. Every building looked like it was painted in sunlight, and the people, God, they just lived. Like every moment was meant to be felt, not just passed through. At the first wedding event, the rehearsal dinner, I saw him. Alejandro Martin. He was working the reception, carrying trays of drinks. Tall, tan, that kind of quiet confidence that doesn't come from arrogance but from peace. He looked like he belonged there, like the world around him made sense. At one point, one of the waiters tripped and a glass rolled off the table toward me. I bent to grab it at the same time he did, and for a second, we just froze, both laughing. Cliché, right? But I swear it didn't feel cliché in that moment. We talked for a while, broken English and broken Spanish, somehow meeting in the middle. He told me his family ran a little cafe near the river. He was helping out at the wedding for some extra money. There was this warmth about him, something that made me feel seen in a way I wasn't used to. That night, when the music ended, he asked if I wanted to see the city. I said yes before I even thought about it. Over the next 2 weeks, we were inseparable. We rode bikes through narrow cobblestone streets, shared pastries so sweet they made our teeth ache, sat under bridges talking about everything. Life, dreams, what we'd do if time stopped. We had this tiny favorite spot near the river, where street musicians played flamenco at sunset. He'd buy me roasted almonds, and we'd sit there, knees touching, like we'd known each other forever. He called me mi cielo, my sky, and I called him mi milagro, my miracle. It sounds dramatic now, but when you're 19, love doesn't feel like an emotion. It feels like gravity. I didn't realize that the people around us, especially my cousins, were watching. Sabrina and Maddie, two sisters who loved gossip more than honesty. Sabrina was 21, gorgeous, confident, always the it girl. Maddie was her echo. Everything Sabrina said, Maddie repeated. And from the moment Alejandro and I connected, I saw the shift. Sabrina smiled less. Her jokes got sharper. And sometimes I'd catch her staring at us, expressionless, before flipping it into a fake laugh. I didn't know until later that she and Alejandro had gone to high school together during his exchange year, that she'd had a crush on him back then, and that she wasn't over it. At first, it was small things. "Oh, Emily, don't get too attached. Spanish boys are all charm." Or, "You know he probably says mi cielo to every tourist girl, right?" I brushed it off, because Alejandro wasn't like that. I could feel that he wasn't. But jealousy is sneaky. It's like smoke. It gets in through the cracks before you notice the fire. Over the next 2 weeks, we were inseparable. We rode bikes through narrow cobblestone streets, shared pastries so sweet they made our teeth ache, sat under bridges talking about everything. Life, dreams, what we'd do if time stopped. We had this tiny favorite spot near the river, where street musicians played flamenco at sunset. He'd buy me roasted almonds, and we'd sit there, knees touching, like we'd known each other forever. He called me mi cielo, my sky, and I called him mi milagro, my miracle. It sounds dramatic now, but when you're 19, Love doesn't feel like an emotion. It feels like gravity. I didn't realize that the people around us, especially my cousins, were watching. Sabrina and Maddie, two sisters who loved gossip more than honesty. Sabrina was 21, gorgeous, confident, always the it girl. Maddie was her echo. Everything Sabrina said, Maddie repeated. And from the moment Alejandro and I connected, I saw the shift. Sabrina smiled less. Her jokes got sharper. And sometimes I'd catch her staring at us, expressionless, before flipping it into a fake laugh. I didn't know until later that she and Alejandro had gone to high school together during his exchange year, that she'd had a crush on him back then, and that she wasn't over it. At first, it was small things. "Oh, Emily, don't get too attached. Spanish boys are all charm." Or, "You know he probably says mi cielo to every tourist girl, right?" I brushed it off, because Alejandro wasn't like that. I could feel that he wasn't. But jealousy is sneaky. It's like smoke. It gets in through the cracks before you notice the fire. The last night before my flight home, Alejandro told me he wanted to meet me at the courtyard after his shift. He said he had a surprise, something to remember him by. I spent hours getting ready. Not fancy, just trying to look like the version of myself he saw. Then Sabrina showed up at my door. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying. She said she had to tell me something before I embarrassed myself. She told me Alejandro had been bragging to his coworkers about me, that he said I was just an American fling, that once I left, he'd find someone new. I told her she was lying. And then she showed me a photo. Alejandro at the bar earlier that evening, arm around one of the groomsmen, laughing. It looked bad. It wasn't even romantic, but my 19-year-old brain filled in all the blanks. I called him that night. No answer. I called again. Nothing. I waited in that courtyard for hours, sitting by the fountain until the sky turned soft pink. I left the bracelet he'd given me, a red string he'd tied around my wrist one night, saying, "This means we'll find each other again." I left it right there on the fountain's edge. I didn't know that while I was crying, Sabrina and Maddie were feeding him the same lies. They told him I'd spent the night with another guy, that I'd been laughing about him, that I was leaving without saying goodbye. So he stopped answering my calls. And I left Spain heartbroken, thinking I'd been used. Back home, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Every song, every smell reminded me of him. Then came the test. 2 pink lines. I sat on my bathroom floor for what felt like hours just staring at them. I wrote him a letter, poured everything into it, told him about the baby, about how I still believed in him, about how what we had was real. I sent it to the catering company where he'd worked. It was the only address I had. Weeks passed. No reply. I started to hate him a little. Then I started to hate myself for believing in him. Months later, I gave birth to my son, Lucas. He had Alejandro's eyes, that same deep, gentle brown. I told my parents the father was someone from Spain. They didn't press. I went back to college part-time, worked 2 jobs, raised Lucas on my own. And every time I looked at him, I felt both heartbreak and grace, because as much as I'd lost, I still had a piece of what we were. I didn't know it then, but my letter never reached him. Sabrina had intercepted it. She made sure of it. 11 years later, Sabrina was getting married. Guess where? Spain. My parents insisted we go. Family is family, they said. I didn't want to, but Lucas, 10 years old and curious, wanted to see the place where Mom's story began. So we went. The pre-wedding party was at a vineyard. I stood in the corner most of the night, pretending to scroll my phone while everyone else danced. Then I heard it, a voice. Deeper, older, but still him. I turned around and there he was, Alejandro. Older, sharper jawline, but the same eyes that once made me forget how to breathe. And standing beside him, wearing her diamond ring and fake smile, was Sabrina. She wrapped her arm through his and said, "Emily, this is my fiancé, Alejandro Martín." He froze, then looked at me, then at Lucas, who was standing beside me, his little hand in mine. And I saw it happen, the realization. He knew. He didn't say a word, but he knew. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went outside to the courtyard behind the villa. It looked just like the one from all those years ago. Same fountain, same climbing red flowers on the wall. And there he was, standing by the water, staring at the reflection of the moon. When he turned and saw me, he smiled. The saddest smile I've ever seen. "You disappeared," he said quietly. I shook my head. "You stopped answering." We talked for hours. He told me about that night, how he'd waited for me until sunrise, how he thought I'd chosen someone else. And when I told him what Sabrina and Maddie had done, I saw him go pale. He whispered, "She told me you laughed about me, that you were with someone else," I said. "She told me the same thing." We just stood there, realizing we'd spent 11 years mourning something that wasn't even real. Then Lucas's voice called out from the balcony, sleepy and soft. "Mom? You okay?" Alejandro looked up at him, and his entire expression changed. He saw himself, his eyes, his nose, even the way Lucas tilted his head. "He's mine," he whispered, and I nodded. "He's ours." The next day was supposed to be Sabrina's wedding. It never happened. Alejandro confronted her that morning. She broke down, confessed everything. The lies, the fake photo, intercepting the letter. She said she just couldn't stand to see me happy when she'd loved him first. He left the villa without saying a word. Sabrina never showed up to the ceremony. Later that afternoon, I found Alejandro and Lucas sitting at a park bench near the vineyard. Lucas was kicking a soccer ball while Alejandro showed him how to tie a double knot. They were laughing. It was the first time I'd ever seen them together, and it hit me. This was what was stolen from us. All those birthdays, all those mornings, all that time. Sabrina left Spain quietly. No apologies, no explanations. Just silence. Alejandro and I stayed in touch. At first, it was about Lucas. Phone calls, messages, little updates. Then, slowly, it became more. He moved to the States a few months later. We didn't try to pick up where we left off. We built something new, something real. He learned how to make pancakes badly. Lucas taught him how to play video games. And I finally stopped waking up with that ache in my chest. Now, when I see them together, laughing in the kitchen, fighting over burnt toast, I realize something. Some love stories don't end when people walk away. They end when the truth finally catches up. I met him at a wedding. I lost him at a wedding. And years later, I found him at another. Some promises break. Some survive lies. And some, like ours, survive time itself. If you stayed with me through this story, thank you. Your support means the world and keeps these stories alive. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss when heartbreak meets truth again. And since you made it all the way to the end, I've got something special for you. The song you're about to hear, it's called Promises Are Sacred. It's an original AI-generated piece written just for this story. It's for every love that waited, and every truth that finally came home.
In the sunlit streets of Seville, I was 19 and free. 2 weeks that felt like forever with the boy who saw me. We danced where the river whispered, where laughter kissed the air. I swore that love was endless, 'cause I found heaven there. He called me mi cielo, and I called him mine. We built a world on stolen hours beneath the red-threaded sky. But envy moves in silence, wearing someone else's face. And what we had was buried in another woman's stayed behind. A child with his father's eyes and his mother's restless mind. I wrote a letter trembling, told him he was gonna be a dad. But some truths die in transit, and some hearts just go mad. The years move like strangers, wearing months like masks. I built a life from ashes, I learned how to laugh. But every time my boy would smile, I'd feel the echo burn, the ghost of something beautiful waiting to return. And I'd whisper to the stars when the night was deep and still, if love is really sacred, please bring him back to me someday, if you will. 'Cause promises are sacred, even when they fade. They linger in the silence of the plans you never made. And time can steal the moments, but it can't erase the heart. Some endings fall to pieces just to find the missing part. Then I saw him years later under wine-soaked lights. Same brown eyes, same quiet soul, same wrong turn right. And standing beside him, my cousin's perfect smile. But fate has a sense of humor, cruel and divine. He looked at me, then at our son, and the past unraveled thread by thread until it was gone. He whispered, he's mine, and I said, he's ours. And the universe finally exhaled beneath those stars. Some love stories don't die, they wait in the corners of time. They bend, but they don't break, because promises are sacred. 'Cause promises are sacred, carved in bone and sky. They bloom from the ashes, they never really die. The years may try to hide them, the lies may cloud their view, but truth always finds its way back to the heart it's due. I met him at a wedding, I lost him at a wedding, and I found him at another. Some stories end in fire, ours ended in forever.